Hey, excuse me. How you doing? Full name, Max Strong. How you guys doing? Audio check. Is it coming in okay for you guys? Roger, how you doing? News Junkie 3000. How you doing? RR, good to see you again. Polynesian Pip, aloha. How's everything going? Okay, audio. Okay, thanks for the feedback. Still trying to fight off this cold. It's I don't know somehow been lingering for almost a month now. So bear with me if, as best you can. Joe Taz, how you doing? Thanks for the audio check, the feedback. Code 3, aloha from Kauai. How you doing, Code 3? Chan is from Canada. Great. Shane Clemens, New Zealand. How you doing? Susan Klein, how you doing? And here we are. Another week has gone by. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV, and this is our live stream. So I hope everyone is doing well or is doing as best they can, wherever they may be, whether that's evening for you, getting ready to go to bed, having dinner, or Monday morning here in Asia. So again, Monday morning, typically we're going to start just by taking a quick look at the gold and silver prices. I'd expect some movement with what's going on in the news. There's been quite a lot of news lately. We see gold is up $10 at 1581, and we see silver at 1829. So both metals are moving somewhat. Nickel a little down. Cobalt still hanging on around that 30,000 plus range. So again, a lot of news going on. And again, excuse me, I'm still trying to get over this cold, but a lot of news going on. I mean, we're seeing everything from again things flying in Baghdad to Iran announcing their nuclear ambitions to Wuhan virus, of course. Um, many things going on, and I guess we should start off by saying condolences with Kobe Bryant and Kobe Bryant's family. Unfortunate accident there as well. A lot of news. To be honest, it's got my head on a swivel this morning, and I'm trying to keep up with things as best I can. But let's take a look at some of your comments and see how you're all doing. So again, Shane Clemens, New Zealand, how you doing? JB Coin, absolutely. These colds, I tell you what, man, they're taking longer longer to shake. So again, bear with me. Roger, be careful. Virus, absolutely. Getting to a point where whenever we go outdoors, we are wearing masks already at this point, especially when you go on the buses and on the trains. Um, yeah, R.I.P. Kobe, R.R. Yeah, same cold. I don't know. Maybe we're just getting a bit older, or these colds are getting a bit stronger. Maybe it's a combination of both, but they do seem to take longer to shake off. Sam Silverberg, first time I've seen your name. Welcome aboard. Good to have you here. Ken Semotiuk, same thing. Glad to have you here. First time I've seen your name here. No, it's not the coronavirus. Let's just be positive and say it's just the cold. Hopefully, it's just the cold. Nothing more than that. Let's see. Susan Klein, I want to know about silver Krugerrands. I ordered 25 of the 2021 ounce silver Krugerrands. Question that it can help you with on that maybe. Need to know more about it. Um, let's see. How come this doesn't show up on the live channels? Nameless. Not sure. You have to ask YouTube about that. YouTube seems to always be changing things up on a lot of us. It's not just me. I know a couple other guys have been saying things are kind of changing with their live streams as well. Uh, Ken, yeah, quit drinking Corona beer. All right. I'll try my best, Ken. Good one, good one. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to get into some of the news here, and I guess it has to start off with this Wuhan virus. I'm not necessarily going to get into the numbers because these keep changing quite a bit and pretty substantially. So what I'll do is start off with the an article from Real Investment Advice. Let me scroll down a bit. One of their authors, Michael Morkowski, over at realinvestmentadvice.com, he goes on to write an article about, based on his reading the financial news and listening to the market pundits about the potential impact of the Wuhan coronavirus, the probability is very high that the global equity markets will experience a severe correction or maybe even a crash soon. It's because the virus has not yet been discounted by the global markets. So apparently, the markets need to put a price on the coronavirus or the effect it'll have. Moving on, the media is reporting, and the pundits are saying that the virus will have minor impact. They cite the market statistics for the 2014 Ebola virus and the 2003 SARS virus. The reporters, analysts, and pundits are making comparisons to the 2014 Ebola virus, and he calls it ridiculous. Ebola cases were reported in only six of the world's countries in 2014. They included five third world and emerging market countries. The US was the only developed country with 11 cases and two deaths. A little bit of a, okay, Ebola. Okay, sorry about that. For 2003, the SARS virus the primary thesis by the media and the analysts is that the markets declined and rallied substantially by the end of 2003. The reality is that the markets in the US and China had been in a steady decline since the bursting of the dot com bubble in 2000. The US market's rally for the second half of 2003 coincided with the unemployment claims for the 2001 US recession that peaked in June 2003. So let me move down a bit. Um, basically, I guess we'll end it there. Basically, what this author is saying is when those two viruses happened, it happened in emerging countries, emerging economies. It happened in third world countries, not the way it is with first world countries. So he's saying that because these economies, obviously, they're different, third world country or emerging market compared to a developed country. Uh, you can't base your, let's say, opinion or outlook on prior diseases being SARS and Ebola. And I think this author is right. Um, this is a it's a different virus, and it's different economies, different populations, different places geographically that it's hitting. So I think this is something we need to keep an eye on, and well, need to stay vigilant and stay safe, protect ourselves as best we can. Getting into the comments, um, Elbow Sanchez, aloha, how you doing, buddy? Let me see. Okay, hang on. Let me come down a bit. Uh, Kawi Kaneko, how you doing? Freedom of speech, Flora. Drink vodka. Okay, we're still everybody's still trying to get me healthy. Okay, appreciate that. Yeah, I'll drink vodka with fruit juice instead of Corona beer. Okay, let's get some. Yeah, absolutely. Can get some likes. I really would appreciate that. In fact, let me back up a bit. If you are new to this channel or you have not already done so, please do subscribe and go ahead, click on the bell to be notified on updates and give us a thumbs up. If you like what we do, we really do appreciate your support. And again, you can find us on social media. We're at silverbullion.com.sg, which is our website. SG again because we are in Singapore. Silver Bullion SG is our Facebook. At Silver Bullion PL is our Twitter, PL for private limited. The audio versions can be found on bit.ly/SBTV iTunes or SBTV Spotify. And you can, or we hope you do, join our Crisis Tracker group where we go ahead and post news, economic news, or things that have an effect on markets. So we do hope that you'll join us in any one of these groups. Elbow Sanchez, thanks for pointing that out. Again, a little bit of a head code. Completely forgot that, but again, thanks for pointing it out. Um, so yeah, Kevin Smith, enjoy some. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. Appreciate that very much. Um, already hit that thumbs up. Love the. Thank you. Thank you, Dharma. Uh, Lord, humongous minor stocks looking to blast off next week. Minor stocks are looking good, and I think probably you folks have seen that Mike Maloney bit where he's going to go into mining stocks. So it does seem to be looking good. Victor Lestrado silver $19 soon. Could be, could be. We touched 19 last year. We even went over 19 a little bit last year. I think we'll get back to it. Okay, so moving on. That was the Wuhan virus where I think people are saying the markets have not priced it in, and then another bit of news which probably or should affect oil, and which means it should affect gold because oil and gold do have a pretty established correlation. So this is coming from Zero Hedge, where Iran declares it's passed low uranium enrichment threshold for a nuke, and that one right there is pretty concerning. So as I say, it should affect the oil prices, and if that happens, that should affect gold prices, being that those two do have somewhat of an established correlation. So Iran's Deputy Atomic Energy Organization Director Ali Asghar Zarian made a key provocative announcement on Saturday, saying the Islamic Republic has now passed the low uranium enrichment threshold for a nuke. At the moment, if Iranian authorities make the decision, the Atomic Energy Organization, as the executor, will be able to enrich uranium at any percentage. Specifically, he declared the agency had surpassed the 1200 kg of low level enrichment uranium following early last month Iran's leaders declaring they consider the program under no limitations following Qasem Soleimani's assassination. The Saturday announcement also comes nearly 2 weeks after the European signatories of the 2015 nuclear deal, Germany, France, and Britain, said they are moving to trigger the JCPOA's dispute resolution mechanism, formally declaring Tehran is in breach, which could bring UN sanctions. Okay, so I'll end it there. That's going to be something again we have to watch. But Wuhan virus, how severe is it? I mean, the numbers we're getting, are they believable? Are they, I don't know if conservative is the right word, but are they being somewhat lessened for fear of sparking panic in the markets and wherever else? And Iran, recent history, are we going to see oil prices shoot up? I mean, we've seen a ship get hit, we've seen a drone get shot down, we've seen an embassy get hit, and again, just yesterday, I believe, there was another incident going on in Iran. So um, I think all of these things are going to affect the market, from the coronavirus all the way to nuclear development. Going into your comments here, Franco Nevada is a solid company, Lord Humongous. Yeah, I'd have to agree. But again, whenever you buy miners, you got to understand you're not necessarily buying the metal. You're not buying the silver. You're not buying the gold. What you're buying is management. So again, always keep that in mind whenever you're buying a mining company or mining shares. You're definitely buying management. When you just get the silver and gold bullion, there's no management involved. So you're not including any risk of management. But mining stocks, you have that risk of management. So always keep that in mind whenever you're looking to go into mining stocks. Um, let's see, a couple more questions here. Let's see, nameless. Sorry about that. It's addicting, but the stock market, forex, etc., are too manipulative for me. Nameless, I agree, and I think you guys know that one of my pet peeves, and I'll just say this: I don't necessarily. I have a hard time going with people who want to forecast uh gold and silver prices. I mean, it. I suppose you can do it within good reason, but for me, my simple outlook or outtake on it is, if you know these markets are manipulated, or the stock market's manipulated, but especially gold and silver, it's I don't necessarily follow. when people expect the gold prices, when they expect a breakout here or a breakout there, this head and shoulders pattern, teacup, this, that. And again, it's because if the price is manipulated and you're looking at a price chart of a manipulated price, you're forecasting a price that's manipulated. In other words, bad data going in more than likely is going to give you a bad result coming out. And for that reason, I don't necessarily follow forecasts of especially gold and silver because I think there's enough evidence out there that these two metals are manipulated. So trying to forecast the price, very dicey. It's very difficult at this point. There's no true price discovery with those two metals, and I know analysts do their best, to try and figure it out and price different things in when making a forecast. But uh, for me, still the bottom line is those two metals are manipulated, so very difficult to follow a chart that forecasts the price. But anyway, that's just me. This is about you guys. Lord humongous again. Stocks are speculative. Absolutely. Um, let's see. Elbow Sanchez, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Invest in the bank of the backyard. Yeah, hey, you know what? That's excuse me, that's pretty interesting because we did have a gentleman come in last week. Um, and he mentioned how he has various places where he's buried some of his holdings. So it's again just buried throughout different places. So yes, it is the backyard, the vault of the backyard. I guess I don't know, but hey, everyone's different, right? We all see things differently. So you do what you need to do to best suit your own situation. RR, um, I guess that's extremities in, extremities out. There you go. You gotta go with that. Elbow Sanchez again. I'm pretty much completely out of the market, only staying in with the match for my company, but I'm considering stopping that. Elbow Sanchez, I'm assuming you're talking about some kind of pension or 401k. If it is, assuming it is, even 401ks, again, you guys hear me say this over and over. You have a 401k, really talk to someone about seeing if you can roll it over or some of it over into a precious metals IRA. Because again, I know you guys are seeing gains with your 401k, but it's riding along with that stock market. And when that stock market does go down, your 401k more than likely will take a hit with it. So you do want to look at getting some of your 401k out of the paper and into the real things. Again, not financial advice. These all I'm saying is check into it on your own and see if it's something that works for you. And I'm talking about this from experience because also, as you guys know, I my 401k was doing very well, and when 20 September 11th happened, it took a real hit. Again, not to make light of any lives that were lost, but just to say that my 401k lost a few tens of thousands simply because the market went down. And mind you, at that time, the choices we had were, do you want to go US or do you want to go international? Most of my 401k was with international companies. So I couldn't imagine if it was with US. And again, it's just to say your 401k really can it can go down a whole lot quicker than it goes up. So try and look into self-directed IRAs, precious metals IRAs. Again, not financial advice, just throwing an opinion out there for you guys to maybe look into on your own. Okay, Ken Simotilk. Sorry, but I'm probably butchering your name. Forgive me for that. I have 1,500 ounces of silver maples and 21 ounces of gold maples. You're doing pretty good. I think you're doing very well, very very well. Okay, Lord Humongous, I do options once in a while. Sure. Uh, Kawi Kanekoa, you can never go wrong with gold and silver as an insurance hedge. Uh, Absolutely, and I think that's one thing. Again, we see a lot of guys. They only look at the gold and silver price, and what they're missing is the hedge or the insurance aspect of it. And again, do you have auto insurance? Yes. Home insurance? Yes. Health insurance? Yes. Fire insurance? Yes. You have all of these things. Do you have money insurance? And when you say money insurance, people look at you pretty strange. But of all these things, money should be one of the things that you definitely have insurance for, and that insurance for money is things like gold and silver. So again, try and look into these things and dig deeper and get a broader understanding, and believe me, you will feel a whole lot more comfortable at night or even during the day. But okay, continuing on, a lot of the news also came out of Davos this past week. There were a lot of things going on, and I found this clip to be pretty interesting, and I just want to share it with you guys.
Not to minimize the environmental issue, I think this is one of many issues that's an important economic issue.
If you look at the economic literature at the moment, out of 77,000 articles published, 60 deal with environmental sustainability. At the end of the day, it's going to be more than disclose and stress test, but really, how do you actually account so that risks is anticipated, measured, hopefully mitigated, and we are in a better shape.
Christine, I think you can have a lot of people look at this and model it. I just don't want to kid ourselves. I think there's no way we can possibly model what these risks are over the next 30 years with a level of certainty, given what I think is changes in technology and everything along the way. There's lots of other issues we could talk about. Kind of what's the risk to kind of if oil prices go up to $120 because of regional issues on the world economy. So I mean, there are economic issues that the world is dependent upon having reasonable priced energy for the next 10 or 20 years.
If we can push companies into the direction of actually anticipating the transition, pricing it, and making sure that they move to cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and cleaner energy uses, then it helps.
I'm sorry, but I need one rebuttal to be 30 seconds, okay?
25 seconds.
I don't think we know how to price these things. So I think we're overestimating the cost. And if you want to put a tax on people, go ahead and put a carbon tax. That is a tax on hardworking people. And I personally think the costs are going to be much lower 10 years from now because of technology than we think they are today.
I think
Okay, so those two went at it a little about, actually a lot. They went at it back and forth about climate change and taxing and whatnot. So I am gonna let you guys go ahead and and debate that. I'm just gonna sit back and watch. Climate change, yes or no? Is what is it? Is this a real thing? Is it just about money? Is it just about taxes? What is it? And is Mnuchin right in saying we don't know what the tax should be? And I mean, I'll just say I think he's correct on that part of it. I mean, granted, yes, we all should take care of the earth and be responsible for ourselves and whatnot. Um, to what degree, that's debatable. But Mnuchin is right in that we don't know how to price these things, what tax to put on it. You just don't know what technologies will come up to alleviate some of these things. And again, they're about to or they would like to tax people on these things. And I think these are two separate items. Keeping the climate clean, that's one side of it. But taxing people on something we don't yet know enough of, I think that's something else. So I mean, I'll let you guys go ahead and debate that. I'll just take a look at some of what you guys are saying. I did see that comment, Christine Lizard Guard, whatever it was. I know opinions are strong on both people, both good and bad. So let's see. RR, it's all about control. A lot of people think yes, it is about control. But again, I think whether it's control or not control, I mean, yeah, we should be good stewards. I mean, clean up after yourself. The simple, basic things. But to what degree? Again, that's debatable. Let's see. Nameless. They are pretending like it's poker. They are friends, just pretending for the broader general public. Hey, can be. It could be. Could be. Silver Akula, there should be zero tax as climate change as it stands in the media right now is a lie. Okay. There's one opinion. Retard, another government tax. Okay, it's another opinion that it's just a tax. James Mayo, it's a made up issue. Yeah, I mean the opinions vary. You know, some people they they wholeheartedly are into this, and some people just aren't. So, you know, again, it's just another issue that seems to divide the populace. And I'm gonna stay out of this one. I'll just let you guys go back and forth on it. And but again, for me, the simplest thing is just be responsible for yourself. It all starts with there. In just about anything we do, it all starts with each of us being responsible for our own selves and what we do. Um, Another thing that happened at Davos was Trump. He There's a little clip of him saying how he loves negative interest rates.
U.S. stock markets have soared by more than 50% since my election, adding more than $19 trillion to household wealth and boosting 401ks, pensions, and college savings accounts for millions of hardworking families. And these great numbers are many things, and it's despite the fact that the Fed has raised rates too fast and lowered them too slowly. And even now, as the United States is by far the strongest economic power in the world, it's not even close. It was going to be close, but a lot of good things happened to us and some not so good things happened to certain other places. They're forced to compete, and we compete with nations that are getting negative rates, something very new, meaning they get paid to borrow money, something that I could get used to very quickly.
Something that I could get used to very quickly, says President Donald Trump, and it's all about that competition. It's about currencies, strong currencies, weak currencies, currency manipulations, whatnot. Heck of a lot going on. And again, I just want to take a look at your comments out there. Uh, Absolutely strong opinions that you have as far as this climate change issue and the tax and control and whatnot. Uh, just watching it go by, I think you guys are having a good debate there. It's all a scam. Central banking, raw land is a great investment. Parker Carey, first time I've seen your name. Welcome aboard. Raw land, sure, sure. I mean, I think we all need a place to plant our flag and call it our own. Raw land's good investment. I absolutely agree with that. Um, Continuing on, Parker, that's half true. Okay. I just said it's a good investment, and now Nameless says it's half true. Okay, so I guess we'll have to follow that debate going on. Our carbon dioxide is the building block of life. We are carbon-based life forms. It's true. It's called science, not science computer models. That is true. Our good point. Good point. Lord Humongous Davos is a joke. Uh, you know it just does seem to be getting more and more disconnected from we the people and the people anywhere in the world. You know, Davos, it does seem to be just getting more and more disconnected, and I think it I think it's just going to continue to grow the gap. If it's not the wealth gap, I think it's just the mentality gap where the disconnect is there. I somehow a lot of these leaders just no longer seem to relate with the people that put them in office, and I think at some point people are going to have to remove some and put back in people that do understand what the populace wants, and it's getting to a point that gap may just be too big to cross or reel anyone in. So you know, again, something we need to understand, and the way it's going, it's just the gap is just getting bigger and bigger. Let's see, JB Coin, we have 144 and only 4 likes in the video. So, yes, JB Coin, thank you. Appreciate that. The likes do definitely help, and the viewers definitely help. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you, JB. Um, let's see. Nameless people buy islands, but they have to maintain it with no one who lives on it. I've I have seen that where people actually do buy islands, and sometimes it's just a small island. It's just a little tourist stop, or maybe like a boat tour, and then tourists will get off and go to that little island and have their lunch or whatever it is. But there's absolutely nothing on that island, and the people that own the island, they just collect money from these tour companies and things like that. But that's small scale. There are people who buy bigger islands and go ahead and develop it. Kevin Smith, where are you originally from? Kevin Smith, if that's me, originally from Hawaii, and I'm over in Singapore. Been in Singapore since 2005, January 5th, 2005. I still remember that day. Sam, oh, hang on, guys. Sorry. That's Lord Humongous Papers. Poverty. It's the cost of money and not money itself. Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, we're gonna Lord Humongous, we're going to touch on that. I'm going to take a look at a little bit of the history of silver and see how it kind of evolved and developed and the good and the bad of it. So after this new section, we'll get into that. And of course, you can't have a Davos without a Diamond, Jamie Dimon, and he also had something to say as well. I mean, we had Trump saying he would love negative rates, and then we had Jamie Dimon saying this.
I think it's very hard for central banks to forever make up for bad policy elsewhere. And that puts them in a trap. And we're a little bit in that trap today with rates that's so low around the world.
You think that's a bigger problem in the United States, or you think because of Europe,
much bigger
in places
problem in Europe.
where it's negative interest rates, that's where they've kind of gotten themselves into that, right?
Yes. I mean, did you know anyone who's actually bought a negative interest rate bond?
No, that's what President Trump said this morning. Was that in your interview with him, where he said?
Yeah, because the buyers are central banks. And certain
and
banks,
insurance
companies that have to, or index massive mutual funds or passive funds. I would never buy a negative rate bond.
Why would you?
Not unless I was forced.
Hold my money.
But in history, whenever you've seen something like that, it doesn't necessarily end well.
I know we've been talking about this for a long time. What do you think the potential end looks like? When do you think it comes? Is there any way of knowing any of these things? Or are there any signs to say we're getting closer to a point where this actually does play out?
I don't know.
What would you watch for?
The biggest surprise would be inflation, if you have any kind of inflation in the United States. And that right now people think central banks around the world can do whatever they want. They can't. Right. They will have to be reactors as opposed to just actors if you see adverse consequences going a certain way. So, and they're intelligent, looking at all the facts, trying to figure out what to do. But that would be the big negative surprise.
Do you see bubbles?
Only in sovereign debt.
Sovereign debt's where you see the bubble.
Yep.
You don't see the bubble. I mean, even we were talking about. We had Uber on, a lot of these private companies. Is that a bubble?
It's not a bubble because those are, in total, they're not that big. And yeah, some are overpriced. But we've always had overpriced companies in life, and stock prices are at a high, but those prices can be justified if you have a growing economy.
I think you heard the guys, the broadcasters laugh 2 or 3 times with what Jamie Dimon had to say. Just read one comment here. Polynesian Pip. Hey, mahalo. I appreciate that. Mahalo is Hawaiian for thank you. Having gold and silver as a hedge, is it not possible for the value of the hedged items to be manipulated? I think the manipulation is right now. But there's going to get to a point where that paper price that's manipulating the true gold and silver price, let's say, they're going to break away. That paper price is not going to have any bearing on the physical price. And I go back to, I believe it was around 2014 as an example where silver was down at about I think it was in the high 13 range, low $14 range, somewhere around that time frame. And but the price of silver, the bullion, was up. And the reason is because there was also a little bit of a shortage going on in the market. And so what happened was the spot price of silver, gold were going down, but the physical supply was also going down, meaning there just was not that much of it around. And so, the demand for silver became more and more. And that was partly also tied into because of that having that low spot price. And so what happened was the physical price broke away from the paper price. And when people were trying to buy silver, I think if you guys remember that 1 ounce of silver was costing you maybe $5, $6, $7 more than that 1 ounce spot price. So we did see a breakaway, and I think what'll happen is that same thing. Once people start losing confidence, um, I think you're gonna see that as one of the results. You're going to see that physical price break away from that paper price, and I think the manipulation will be over, and then you're going to get true market discovery. You're going to get more and more people piling into silver, and that's going to push the price up, or the physical price up, no matter if they try to hold down the paper price, because uh, people who are having to buy the gold and silver know that it's difficult to get. So as they sell it, I'm talking about the dealers. So as they sell it, they know that the supply is not there, so they have to sell it at a higher price. So, I mean, I hope that kind of answers the question. It's going to break away. The two will separate, and the manipulation is today, but it won't be tomorrow. In the whole scheme of things, good question. But I mean, getting back to Jamie Dimon, a few things. He said we're in a trap, and last week we went over liquidity trap, and I know it was a bit technical there, with all these charts and everything. So I do apologize for that. But he says we are in a trap. He didn't say liquidity trap, but I do think we are in a liquidity trap. Um, he says it won't end well, referring to negative rates. So Jamie Dimon says negative rates won't end well. President Trump says he would love negative rates. So we're going to see a little bit of a disconnect between these two gentlemen, I suspect. Inflation would be a surprise. I think he's correct there. I mean, for how long has the Fed been trying to get inflation? It's just not working. So inflation were to come, it would be a surprise. The downside of that, I think it will be too much of a surprise where we may not be able to reel it back in as we think we might be able to. So, inflation could very easily go either way, hyperinflate, deflate. But if it comes, I think central banks are going to react and overreact, and they are going to cause an even bigger inflation or deflation to come about. Only bubble is sovereign debt. Um, if if that's the only bubble he sees, uh, I I mean, I think J.P. Morgan might be hiring pretty soon at the top spot. I mean, come on now. There's asset bubbles all over the place, right? I mean, everybody knows that, and yet, Jamie Dimon, he comes out and says the only bubble is sovereign debt. So, I mean, I think we all have issue with that. So, taking a look again at your comments, get it while it's cheap. Hoster of Carcosa, get it well, it's cheap. I said that in 1991 and when it was 300 an ounce as well. At 1580, it's still relatively cheap. Okay, we're talking about gold here. I think I saw earlier question if I'm into silver or gold. Um, I'm more into silver, without a doubt. I started with silver. Um, then over time, I saw the value in having both metals, and then understanding the ratio, I remain more into silver. And I know the ratio right now is in the above the mid 80 range, 80 range to 1. Um for me, anytime it's above my personal, anytime it's above 70, 65, 70, I'm getting silver. So I'm definitely getting silver right now. Personal ratio, I think it's about 100 to 1. If I have 100 ounces of silver, I'll go ahead and get 1 ounce of gold. That's just a personal ratio. So I do mix it up, but silver is more my favorite. I saw that question earlier, so I just wanted to respond to that. Kevin Smith, uh, what about Bitcoin, Litecoin? Your thoughts? I think there's a place, especially for a Bitcoin. I mean, I think because Bitcoin is, we can call it the reserve currency of cryptos. So there's definitely a place for Bitcoin because people move in and out of Bitcoin to trade and to get other cryptocurrencies or altcoins. So Bitcoin definitely a place for it. I mean, I think in the whole scheme of things, if you had to ask the question, what's the scenario? Okay, if it starts with market crash, okay, if the market crashes, then the people who are hanging on to cash, their cash has an expiration date. They're going to use it. They're going to buy a lot of these blue chip stocks, whatever it is. They're going to use the cash for these things while that cash still has value, that expiration date. Then we're going to probably see things like junk silver come in, silver gold come in, And then we're going to probably see things like Bitcoin or crypto simply because it's a way for people to transfer, um, let's call it a currency for now. It's a way for them to transfer a currency that maybe people in their specific area, uh, they're getting accustomed to, or the adoption is growing. So I do think that the way you can transfer Bitcoin, altcoins, things like that, that is going to come into play. So I think it's good to have those coins as well, simply because you can't really move gold and silver around the world, but you can easily move things like Bitcoin and cryptos. I mean, gold and silver you can move. There are ways to do it as well, but then I think eventually what's going to happen is you are going to have some type of government gold-backed crypto come in, or some type of sovereign gold-backed crypto come in. I do think these cryptos are going to have some type of an anchor to it, and because at that point the world probably has gone through so much that the only way they're going to trust a new currency is if it is actually tied into something. So I think in the whole scheme of things, yes, have your cash, have your gold, have your silver, have your junk silver, have your Bitcoin, have a few altcoins as well, and eventually it's probably going to go into that new monetary system where we're looking at some type of gold-backed crypto. So Kevin Smith, I hope that answers your thoughts. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, going down. Jamie Dimon gets a lot of attention. Yes, he does. He does. Let me go down a bit. Let's see. Dharma, I personally don't see cryptocurrency surviving an economic crash because of the power required to complete transactions. Dharma, that's a fair statement. That is a fair statement, and that is one thing that I think needs to be answered by the crypto community. But again, that's where having some type of a gold backed crypto does help out. Because if your value is still there, no matter what, and I'd expect cryptos to be extremely volatile during that type of a scenario, which is why all the more you would want to have it somehow tied into a commodity or something real. Let's see. Lord Humongous, small fraction of gold is an excellent way to accumulate. Um, that is true. That is true. I, if you guys know me, you know I am a favor of small fractional gold. I think those are important. And one of the reasons is because in Singapore, I do run across a lot of people from Vietnam. And they tell me the stories when they were a child, how their parents had to give gold, or the people that were able to give gold to these boat captains and whatnot, they were the people that was able to escape and get out of Vietnam. The guys with currency didn't really get too far, but the guys who had gold, they were able to get out. And again, in some ways, that gold saved their lives. And I know even in the military, part of the pilots' survival kits that they have with them did have some gold in there. So again, there is always that purpose for gold. Um, okay, let's move on. Cheryl Chemnitz, aloha from Eva Beach. How you doing? Eva Beach, good place. Okay, so I mean, looking at these things and your comments kind of takes me back to Egon von Greyers, who we had this last weekend. I just want to play a couple clips from the interview that we had with him earlier.
I, like many people, don't believe that the U.S. has 8,000 tons. Not the U.S. has not had an audit since Eisenhower's days in the 1950s. Almost no central bank in Europe has an official physical audit of their gold either. They have a paper audit, but no physical audit. So therefore, how can we trust that the gold is there? What have they got to hide? This is the people's gold. It doesn't belong to the private central bank. Belongs to the people. And why can't they tell the people if they actually have the gold they say they have? Well, in my view, because they haven't got it. So one day, Patrick, all of this will blow up. Together with, of course, the bullion banks have massive paper positions. So has the futures exchanges, COMEX, etc. And we will see one day a run on gold when there will be no offer, which means that no one will be the price. There will be no gold available, and no seller of gold can offer gold at any price. I mean, that will come. I mean, that's not sensational. That's just how market function.
Okay. Um, Gold at no price. No one will be selling. Something to consider as well. But then again, the truth is, if fiat gets in trouble, you're not going to want to be selling your gold anyway. Probably what you're going to be doing is either keeping it as a wealth preservation, a wealth storage, or you are going to be using it to pick up the opportunities that are going to come along the way, whether someone may be selling their land, selling it cheaper because they need whatever that going to be the currency at that time, because they may not trust fiat. They may want something else, and maybe they don't have gold. You have gold. They're going to be willing to sell you their land, their condo, their apartment, their business, whatever it is. They're going to be willing to sell it for the gold that you have. So part of that exit strategy, when people ask, why go back into fiat with your gold, silver? The thing is, you probably won't. You're going to be using that as wealth storage, wealth preservation until that new monetary system comes in, or you're going to be using it to pick up some of the opportunities that are going to come along the way. And so one more clip from Egon that I want to play, and I guess you guys can discuss amongst yourself. Does the U.S. really have that 8,000 tons of gold? I'm curious to see what you folks have to say. But here's another clip from Egon. Okay, and you touched on paper gold. But why do you say that anyone who holds gold in a bank or ETF or some gold fund has not understood the purpose of physical gold, and how should gold actually be held?
Yes, well, if you hold, the whole investment industry today is all paper.
Yeah.
All you have is digital entries on a computer. Um, and so the world has accepted that, and so we have hundreds of trillions of assets in paper form. Some of that has underlying assets. Much of it doesn't. If you take most of the ETFs today, if you take the ETF funds for stock funds, though most of those are just made out of derivatives. They don't even hold the underlying stocks. So you're talking about a very artificial system now. They said some people, if they buy a company, if they buy stock in the company, yes, they own a part of the company, but they own it in paper form. They can't go to the factory or to the industry in question and say, can I have my share in the company now? And I think we are dependent on a very dangerous financial system now, which in my view, what we saw in 2006 to 9 was just a rehearsal.
Okay, so according to Egon von Greers, we're in a dangerous system right now, and I'd have to agree. I think most of us here are in agreement with what he has to say. It's pretty amazing when you think of everything going on in the world. The last thing you want to worry about or be concerned about is your money. I mean, how how disheartening is that? Worrying about a virus, worrying about war, worrying about all these different things, even the price of things. But then yet you have to worry about the value of your money or the monetary system that you're in, that we're all in. And it's just amazing because this is the last thing that should be on anyone's mind. In fact, it shouldn't even be on anyone's mind. And again, these are the reasons why why we are buying silver and gold. It is not about the price. Price does play a role, yes, but it's not the reason we buy it. And again, looking at some of those comments, um, again, if a person has a land or a business, a house, whatever it is, you know, he may not have, he has that asset. That asset does store value in a sense. But let's say if he was just all in paper, all in cash, now he needs something else that people see as a store of value, store of wealth. And you know, for those reasons, he may have to let an item go, whether it's a land, extra house, condo, whatever it is, to pick up those other things like the gold and silver. So you're not going to necessarily go into fiat. You're going to be using it for other things, and it is temporary. When that new monetary system does come back in, things will be revalued. So again, if you're holding that gold or that silver, it'll be revalued, and whatever that new monetary system is, then you can use that item that stored your wealth to transfer it over into that new system. And again, it's another reason to have silver and gold. There's so many reasons to have it. To not have it, I think, is a high risk. To have it, I think, is going to be a high reward. I think for me, that's just the best way to put it. And so that was Egon von Grey's from last week, and this week we're going to have Charles Hugh Smith coming on board, and we had an interesting conversation where he called the Federal Reserve evil. You wrote that article, and you called the Fed evil. Um, why did you choose that that word evil instead of perhaps misguided or incompetent? I mean, evil does denote that their actions were intentional.
Right. And I think that's the key point, Patrick, is I chose evil because if, as you said, you could just say, well, the Fed stumbled into a bad policy through incompetence or misguided ideas. But the Fed knows, like we all do, that the ownership of all the assets they've pushed higher is concentrated in the top, right? In other words, I'm thinking that I think the numbers are something about 4 or 5% of all households own like 90+% of these assets, right? The top 10% own 90%, but maybe the top 5% own 2/3. So it's really concentrated at the top of the wealth pyramid. And so they know that if every time they push these assets higher, they're only enriching the top few, and they're leaving the rest behind. And so they know this, and so that they keep doing it shows that they're evil. They really don't care about the bottom 90%, and they're just trying to keep their banking buddies glued together, right? And so it's like, I think it is evil, and I think we need to call things by their real name, and so people would, would hesitate to say the Federal Reserve is evil, but actually I believe they are, because they know exactly what they're doing, and they continue doing it.
Yeah, so Charles Hugh Smith will be coming up this week. It's a short week for us here in Singapore after celebrating Chinese New Year, so we're going to have to hustle up and get this one out for you. Yeah, thanks for the comment. Charles he's over in Hawaii, and I think most of you folks know I'm from Hawaii also. And the first interview we had with Charles, I failed to wear my Hawaiian shirt, my Aloha shirt. So I told Charles next time we do an interview, I will be sure to wear an Aloha shirt. So that's the reason why I was wearing my Aloha shirt, my Hawaiian shirt, and yeah, my puka shell necklace. I had to make it up to Charles, so uh, hopefully he'll forgive me on this one, and you folks get a little bit of a kick out of it. But I tell you what, it was nice to get out of that collar and tie for once. So, Charles, hopefully we can get you on more often so I can dress down a bit and more comfortably. Okay, taking a look at some of your questions again. Um, yeah, gold and silver cryptos. I am much more a bigger fan of silver. Yes, I do see more potential in silver, and less chance of confiscation. You know, there silver coin has, I believe, has never been confiscated, but other forms of silver, I do believe the government asked if they could receive other forms of silver, but not silver coin. I'm stopping short of calling this confiscation or expropriation, but there was a period, I believe, where the government did take some of the silver. So again, when people say silver was never confiscated, silver coin, but other forms of silver, I do believe it was. Okay, more of the questions. Elbow Sanchez, thank you. Underrated. It would be nice to see more subscribers. Would be nice to see more minutes, more minutes being watched. I think that would be pretty cool. So appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Yeah, puka shells. Yeah, thanks. It's been a while since I actually thrown that on. But again, this is coming up in Charles Hugh Smith's video, um, or interview, I should say, coming up this week. And okay, to get into the more or less the program part of the show, it is about silver, a little bit of a short history about silver. And it all happened because I was going through our website and I came across one of our articles from our very own Vincent Tai, my colleague who absolutely helps out with a lot of the research and everything. So Vincent, thank you. And so I came across this article where it was about currencies whose names still point to silver as money. And so Vincent goes on to write that, unbeknownst to many, silver has been used more times as money in history than gold. It was only towards the end of the 19th century that silver was systematically demonetized from the monetary system by the US and Great Britain. And we're going to get into that. In this article, we show you how the names of major existing currencies today were derived from their silver roots. Their link to their silver past reminds us all that silver is money, and money should be a store of value cherished for its scarcity. Amen to that. So we look at the dollar. The word dollar was derived from an ancient European silver coin known as the thaler or thaler. I'm not sure whichever one it is, but let's call it thaler. The thaler silver coin was used throughout Europe for almost 400 years from as early as the 15th century. The word thaler is an abbreviation of its longer name here, which I'm not going to attempt, but it was used for coins minted from silver mine in the city of Waschenstall in Bohemia. All right, we got to attempt it, right? The word Thal means valley in German. So Thaler literally means something that comes from the valley. Over the years, the word Thaler reached other countries and it evolved into variants such as the Taler or Thaler, Scandinavian, Tolar, Slovenian, Daldar, Dutch, and the dollar, English. I know I'm butchering some words there. Sorry about that, guys. The peso. The peso was a name given in Spain to a silver coin known as the piece of eight, peso de ocho, or more famously known as the Spanish dollar. It had a diameter of 38 mm, weighed 27.46 grams, and had a fineness of 93%. It was called piece of eight because the face value of the silver coin was 8 reals, the currency unit in Spain for many centuries. The Spanish dollar was minted from the middle of the 16th century and was widely adopted as the first world currency by the late 18th century. It was used for trade in Europe, the Americas, and the Far East. Its popularity also saw the silver coin become legal tender in the US, and we'll get into that. Until the middle of the 19th century, many of the currencies we have today, the dollar, the yen, the Chinese yuan, Philippine peso, were initially based on Spanish dollar. And then we had the yuan, where it was originally introduced as a silver coin in 1889, first produced by the Guangdong Mint. The one silver coin had equal value to the widely circulated Mexican peso silver coin. These silver coins were used in everyday trade from early 16th century. It was common for payment from silk to porcelain to be made with these silver coins. In Mandarin, wan literally means round object or round coin. The names of the Japanese and Korean currencies, the yen and the won, respectively, are derived from the same Chinese won character. Of course, the pound sterling. The official name from the UK currency is derived from a small Norman silver coin minted in the 11th century. During this period, silver pennies were produced with a consistent weight of silver, leading to the equating of 240 pennies to a pound of silver. The Norman silver penny was observed to have held a consistent uniform weight of 22 and a half grains of silver for more than 2 centuries. This gave a penny a reputation of being a strong and fixed currency which could be used reliably for trade even abroad. And that was always the thing, to have some type of currency that was recognized and had it had a weight that you could count on to be a certain measurement or a certain value. And we have the rupee, which was used by India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Mauritius. The origin of the word rupee comes from the Sanskrit word rupia, which means wrought silver, a coin of silver. The rupiah used by Indonesia is also derivative of the word rupiah. Okay. And during his brief rule of northern India between 1540 1545, Emperor Sher Shah Suri issued a silver rupiah coin which weighed 178 grains. The silver coin remained in use during the Mughal Empire period and later in British rule. Okay, so we get the gist of it that silver does have a history, and it does go way back, and there are coins even today that still have that word silver in it, and I think some of you guys are familiar with it. When we take a look at the silver maple, lower right hand corner, we see that word argent. That is the word for silver. So even there, we see that word. When we take a look at the Libertad, we see the word plata. Plata is also a word for silver. And of course, the lei is the purity. I believe lei is the purity. 1 ounce silver, date is 2019, and the purity is 9999. So it's just to say that, silver does have a history as money, perhaps the oldest history as being money. Let me take a look at some of your comments before I move on. Um, what's the best gold company for bars and wise? Nameless. I'm gonna first say make sure it's a LBMA company. That's the top. Make sure they are LBMA. Um, LBMA companies would be companies like U.S. Mint, Perth Mint, Royal Canadian Mint, um, various different companies. There's a lot more. It doesn't have to be just a government company, but you can take a look at the LBMA list. Um, the second thing is, of course, where is it taxed? Even though a bar or a coin might be LBMA, different countries may have different taxes. An example is right here in Singapore, where I'm at. The U.S. Gold Eagle, it's LBMA, right? I mean, throughout the world, everybody knows it's LBMA. But the issue with the Eagle is in Singapore, it's taxable. And the reason is because what Singapore will classify as an investment grade metal is that it has to be at least 9995, I believe, the purity of gold. And when you look at a gold eagle, it's only 916 because it has some copper and silver in that coin. So even though it has 1 ounce of pure gold, it has additional silver and copper in it, which is why it weighs more than a 1 ounce coin. If you were to weigh an eagle against a maple, the eagle will weigh more. Why? Because it has that same 1 ounce of gold, equivalent to that gold maple, but it has that extra silver and copper, which makes the weight higher, but it also makes the overall composition not anymore 9999, it becomes 916. So make sure it's LBMA, number one. Number two, take a look at the jurisdictions of the company that you intend to hold it, buy it, store it. So that would be my answer for that. Um, okay, so I want to continue on. Um, so having known or understand the history of silver and how it plays into money, um, we take a little bit of a deeper look where silver coins, possibly the oldest mass-produced form of coinage. Silver has been used as coinage metal since the times of the Greeks. Their silver drachmas were popular trade coins. Ancient Persians used silver coins between 612 to 330 BC. And before 1797, British pennies were made of silver, which we just went over a little. So, as with all collectible coins, many factors determine the value of silver coins, such as rarity, which we also touched on, demand, condition, and the number originally minted. That's, I guess, if they're going into a little bit more collectible side of it. Ancient silver coins coveted by collectors, yeah, there we go, include the denarius and, okay, that's a new one for me, milliards. Well, more recent collectible silver coins include the Morgan dollar, Spanish mil dollar. So just to say that silver coins were used as money, and a lot of them eventually became collectibles. I think a lot of you are familiar with this, where the earliest coins in the world were minted in the kingdom of Lydia in Asia Minor around 600 BC. The coins of Lydia were made of electrum, which is a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver that was available within the territory of Lydia. The concept of coinage, stamped lumps of metal of a specified weight, quickly spread to adjacent regions such as Aegina. I'm guessing, geez, bad pronunciations today, huh? In these neighboring regions inhabited by Greeks, coins were mostly made of silver as Greek merchants traded with Greek communities, colonies throughout the Mediterranean Sea. The Greek coinage concepts soon spread through trade to the entire Mediterranean region. These early Greek silver coins were dominated by staters or drachmas and its fractions. More or less simultaneously with the development of the Lydian and Greek coinages, a coinage system was developed independently in China. These Chinese coins, however, were a different concept and they were made of bronze. Okay, and we're going to get into that. Okay, all of this stuff is going to start to tie in together, I promise. And the Coinage Act of 1857, basically at that time the US was still using the Spanish dollar, the pieces of a coin. And the Coinage Act of 1857, basically this was where the US decided to make their own coins. Uh, let's see, in the newly created coin after Revolutionary War and up until 1792, the sole medium of exchange in terms of species was foreign coin. So this goes back to that Spanish dollar. So the U.S. was using it, and then later on, it U.S. went ahead and developed their own coin. Um, and then we moved on to a silver standard. Almost the whole world basically was on a silver standard. Monetary system in which the standard economic unit of account is a fixed weight of silver. The silver specie standard was widespread from the fall of the Byzantine Empire until the 19th century, following the discovery in the 16th century of large deposits of silver at Cerro Rico in Potosi, Bolivia. An international silver standard came into existence in conjunction with the Spanish pieces of eight. These silver dollar coins play the role of an international trading currency for nearly 400 years. Okay, so silver was the standard, all right? Silver was the standard. Then in 1704, following Queen Anne's proclamation, the British West Indies became one of the first regions to adopt the gold standard. So they're moving from silver to gold in conjunction with the Spanish gold doubloon coin in 1717. And there's a picture of the coin. The master of the Royal Mint, Sir Isaac Newton, introduced a new mint ratio as between silver and gold. So they were even operating off the ratio at this point. I think they were operating at 14 to 1. Um, and this had the effect of putting Britain onto a de facto gold standard. Following the Napoleonic Wars, the UK introduced gold sovereign coin and formally adopted a gold standard in 1821. At the same time, revolutions in Latin America interrupted the supply of silver, that pieces of eight again, that were being produced at the mints in Mexico. Moving on, just want to get to this last portion here. The U.S. changed over to gold de facto in the same year, which was 1873. And over the next 35 years, all other nations changed to gold. So everyone moved off that silver, that gold standard, and went to gold. When I say everyone, I'm saying it loosely because there were countries that were not on the gold standard, and that was China. So only China and the British colonies of Hong Kong and Wei were on the silver standard. Silver standard finally came to an end when it was abandoned by China and Hong Kong in 1935. And that's an important date, 1935, 33, 34, 35. Those are important dates where we're going to start to see a change in silver. We're moving away from silver, moving into gold, and then the effect that it had on China. And the history is pretty interesting. And there's also a little bit of a dark side to that history with what happened, as I found out through the research. But I don't want to lose you guys here, so I want to take a look at some of the comments again. Uh, Nameless, junk silver, a pain when you want to cash in. LOL. Uh, junk silver, it does have a premium for sure. But again, in the whole, if we step back and we take a look at the scenario of things, if it's a market collapse, then a fiat collapse, junk silver probably is going to be the first thing, especially in the US, that people will know. And for people outside of the US, with the US being the dollar being the reserve world currency, The only part of that dollar that still contains silver is junk silver. So if you happen to have junk silver laying around, that's the only part of the world reserve currency that does have silver in it. So I do think even worldwide, um, people are going to resort to either that U.S. junk silver or their own local coins that once upon a time had that silver in it. So I do think there's a place for junk silver because when things first start to happen, each individual is going to have to decide what's money, what's currency, what's money, and I think that's where that role of junk silver is going to definitely have a place for people because people will probably recognize junk silver being a coin of the past before they may recognize, let's say, a U.S. silver eagle or a Canadian silver maple. So junk silver, I do think you should have some. Um, okay, News Junkie 3000, Bergen County. Okay, let's see what else is going on. Um, Federal Reserve note is not a dollar. Absolutely, absolutely not a dollar. Especially if you have a chance to get one of those older silver certificates. They have a bit of a history behind them, and it's interesting when you read those silver certificates what it actually says on it. So again, we saw countries on silver. Pretty much the whole world was on silver. Then some started getting off silver, started going into gold. And there were a few countries that remained on that silver standard. One of them being, of course, China. So there was actually a debate going on or hearing the monetary use of silver. Hang on, let me make sure this is correct. Okay, so let me scroll down a bit. Computer's a bit slow today. The interesting thing, the monetary use of silver, they had a hearing and they were looking at silver, of course, and there was also going through the Great Depression and whatnot. And one of the interesting things is this here: all of these countries had a tie into silver as a monetary source. You look at all of these countries. Okay, I mean Brunei, Bulgaria, Canada, Canary Islands, Antigua, Argentina, Australia. The whole world was basically on a silver standard or had silver coin or had silver money, whatever it might be. Um, okay, Egypt. So I'll take a look at Egypt real quick, just to kind of go along with this article. Let me see if I can pull up Egypt. Okay, so it's Dominican Republic. Let me go down a bit to Egypt and let's see as an example what it says. Okay, so the monetary unit in Egypt, the Egyptian pound divided into 100 plasters, the par value of Egyptian pound is approximately $4.94. The law governing the monetary use of silver. So here we go. Egypt was on silver, and again, a lot of these countries were on silver, including, of course, the U.S., um, which I hopefully can take a look at. Sorry about this. This thing is just a bit slow every time I open up PDFs. So let me just get to the U.S. real quick. Going down. Okay, so we see the U.S. is at. Hang on, sorry about that. Ugh, technology, huh? Sometimes it's wonderful things. Sometimes it can really it can really be a chore. Okay, so 126. So I'm assuming that's somewhere around page 130. Okay, so let's see. For instance, what the U.S. is. Sorry about that, guys. Hang in there with me. Okay, so again, all of these countries had some sort of a silver standard in their monetary system. So when you take a look at the U.S., silver coinage, none of which is limited legal tender, consists of the standard silver dollars, subsidiary silver coins. Okay, and even when we take a look at that um, silver dollar, the content or the fineness anyway is 90%. Um, it had so much grains of silver that made up that silver coin. Half dollar was the same thing, 90%. and then it was 173 grains. So these things all had a size. They had a weight, specific size of measurement, and and then things started to change, as noted. Queen Anne started moving people over into the gold standard, and so people started getting all these countries had to move off the silver standard and over into a gold type of a standard. And you can see it pretty much was the whole world. Every country here had a tie into silver at that point, or was using silver as money, even Vatican City at that point. And I just want to go down a bit and a few highlighted portions of it. Okay, so this is the monetary use of silver, and I'll get to that highlighted part pretty pretty soon. Okay, hang on. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, should be coming up. I think it should be coming up. Okay, so okay, this. Okay, hang on. Sorry about that. My highlighted portions are taking a while to come up. Okay, so it's pretty interesting where it is desirable that fiduciary coins have a value as bullion sufficiently low to avoid their being melted down. In other words, you don't want that bullion in that coin to be higher or too high, because what's going to happen is people are going to take that coin and melt it down upon a foreseeable rise in the price of the principal metal, for example, silver. If they should be withdrawn from circulation and melted, great public inconvenience might result. This indeed has happened in our own history, as witnessed the scarcity of silver coin during the Civil War. Moreover, during the period of an abnormally high price of silver, 1919 and 1920. The same thing threatened to occur again when the price of silver at one time rose slightly above the bullion value of our subsidiary silver coinage. Here's the interesting part. To avoid a recurrence of this risk, Neil Crothers, in his book Fractional Money, says the proper remedy is to reduce the proportion of pure silver in the coins with a proportionate increase in the copper. In other words, debasement. They need to debase the money. The size, design, and wording need not be changed. This plan involves no delays whatever. The only significant change in the coins is an alteration in the color. Okay, so we're starting the trickery, right? That's why you see your quarters with two colors on it. If you look at the reeds or the sides, you see a little bit brown and a little bit silver. Um, the alteration in color. That's the only change in the coin people will see. Since every country there is since in every country there is normally a certain minimum demand for currency as a medium of exchange, it is possible within that limit to vary the character of the money, whether metal or paper, with the utmost freedom. Again, debasement, and they're starting their trickery, their chicanery. Such stock of money may consist in whole or part of commodity money, or it may be entirely fiduciary. Within this limit, nations may safely substitute copper for nickel, nickel for silver, or silver for gold secured paper without affecting the price level. Amazing, amazing. They knew how to play around with the money. And in certain less advanced countries, on the other hand, a large part of the population shows a distinct preference for silver rather than paper currency. Particularly is this the case in backward countries, the backward countries of Africa and Asia, and occasionally in the tropic countries where paper money is in danger of destruction by insects. Countries in these categories are those of the Arabian Peninsula, Afghanistan, Algeria, Anglo European, basically China. It's gonna come back to China, and that's really where we're gonna get into the meat of this. So what I'll do is I want to close this article, take a look at the comments, and I'm going to get into one more part. That there was a hearing on silver currency. Um, Sorry about the delays. Robin Stabile, the United States needs the precious metals revolt, force them into backing the dollar. Dollar needs to be backed by something. I prefer it to be definitely a precious metal, without a doubt. Gold, silver. Um, even having a dual, bimetal, gold and silver. I think copper has a role as well, the way it was, basically, just the way it was. Um, let's see, Rolf Steiner, the elites ain't letting the USA serfs rise up. Don't be silly now. Yeah, we're serfs. Can't deny that word. We're all being indentured, indebted. Um, we are losing quite a bit of the freedoms, and it does tie into money. That's for sure. They need to be put in jail. Would be nice. So far, nobody's really been having to serve time for what they've been doing. Uh, they are censoring me when I say tinfoil. Tinfoil. I think more and more people are starting to wake up that conspiracy, just because it might not be proven today doesn't mean it won't be proven tomorrow. Okay, so conspiracies a lot of times it's just a matter of time that conspiracy becomes a fact, and a lot of it, you know, sad to say, but it depends who controls the media. The media will control the narrative, and they will control the way people will think or the way people will see things. So I want to get to another half of this, another PDF, and hopefully this one will load a bit quicker. And okay, hang on. So this is another hearing on currency, and this one's pretty interesting. I want you to remember a name now. I want you to remember this name here, Pittman. I want you to remember that name, Pittman. Okay. So anyway, this was another hearing. Okay. A gentleman asked, "There's one more question, if you will permit, at this juncture. As I understand, the falling of the price of silver in China naturally raised their commodity prices. And this has to do with trade. So even back then, this is 33 or 34, they were dealing with trade. And China had a commodity backed currency. And the US was going through the depression. A lot of countries were going through a depression at this time. And China, be more than likely because of having a commodity backed currency, was not that affected by that Great Depression, nearly not as much as a lot of the rest of the world was, especially the US. And so he goes on to say, as I understand, the falling price of silver in China naturally raised their commodity prices. Senator Pittman, again, remember this name, very little. Mr. Feisinger, it did not. Pittman says, no, it does have that effect. No effect at all. Feisinger, I was going to ask you this question. If that were so, it may be unimportant. If it is not so, would we not have to go very slow, okay, very slow in getting a rise in the price of silver in order not to disrupt things in the Far East? So they're looking at raising or trying to get the price of silver to rise, and they have a concern with how it will affect China. Okay, so I will just go down a bit. They talk about price and whatnot, and let's see. He goes on to say uh the people of China, like the people of India, only know the value of two metals, silver and copper. The very poorest metal that possibly you want for currency is copper, but nearly every family in China measures its wealth by silver that it hoards. Wealth was measured by silver, the wealth preservation, the store of wealth. Okay, so let's go down a bit. And so again, they're having issues with trade. They're having issues with China. China, their dollar was very strong. And, again, U.S. was in a depression. And they were looking to alleviate some of those trade imbalances, much like they're trying to do it today. Um, so let me find a place where I can jump in. Uh, okay, let's. Okay, as I stated in my prepared statement, if we could by any means, and I doubt if we could, except by an international conference, restore and maintain all of the silver in the world, that which is hoarded, and that which is jewelry, and that which will never come out. And we know that it won't come out because it did not come out when silver was $1.38 an ounce. And that's when silver was higher. If we could get all of it in actual circulation, the expansion from that in currency throughout the world would be helpful but not dangerous. But those are things that are going into the realm of theory and also into the question of education and study and experiment. And I know I am just perfectly satisfied, Mr. Congressman, that any bill that had that present purpose could not get action consideration even. It is because men are too busy. Possibly they have other things on hand. Now, this bill here would have two purposes. I have already said this is not for the primary purpose of expansion of our currency. I admit Mr. Mill's contention that it is not. It tends to, hang on, this is just getting a bit long. Well, I'll just get to here. Sorry about that. You'll find the statisticians say they'll say, well, we are selling more cotton to China than we ever sold. So again, as I was saying, this really goes back to trade. But the triangle effect of it is that while we are selling more cotton to China than we ever sold, we are not selling but half as much to Great Britain, because Great Britain is only selling one third as much of our cotton piece goods to China and other silver countries so that she don't buy our cotton. This bill, by raising silver prices, will tend, you understand, to start the purchase or purchases by a certain class of people who used to buy from us, who are now who now are not buying from us, and the buying of any of our surplus will undoubtedly have a tendency to relieve the domestic market from an oversupply and tend to raise commodity prices here. Senator Pittman, absolutely. Okay, so bear with me. So the U.S. history, they know that when the price of silver rise, the populace is going to take their coinage out of circulation. They're going to melt the silver down, or they're going to melt the coin down, take the silver, and it does create disruption, even a lot of deflation in the economy once it happens. And the U.S. knew this, and so right now what they're planning on doing is raising the price of silver so that they can essentially take China's economy down in a sense. So um, this is a very it's a controlling issue where, again, because the US was in that depression, China's currency was strong. They needed a way to bring China's economy down, and the way they were going to do it was to push the silver price up. So if you ask me, what these guys are talking about is basically manipulation of the silver price. It happened way back then, way back then. And this is how silver kind of wrecked the economy. Um, so what happened? Let me make this a bit larger. That's a bit small. Okay. So how silver standard wrecked China's economy? This is a bit old, 2015, but it's still relevant because it's history past, and it still makes sense today. So let me go over this a bit. The Great Depression was a global crisis, almost. Okay, geez, what's going on with this? Um, geez, sorry about that. Where did this ad come from? Let me go back. Sorry about that. So the Great Depression was almost a sorry about that. Technically, wouldn't be a Monday without little glitches here and there, right? So let me go back down a bit. Great Depression was a global, or almost a global crisis. Every significant economy was devastated with one notable exception: China. Reason was simple. In 1929, the US and every other major nation pegged their currencies to gold. Remember, they got off that silver standard, right? They went into gold. As the economic history of Barry Eichengreen has described, adherence to the standard punished countries by imposing golden fetters that led to crippling deflation. The fixed exchange rates of the gold standard helped transmit the monetary shocks around the world. China alone, among the world's major economies, operated under a silver standard in which the country was pegged to a specific weight of silver. This had the effect of allowing its currency to depreciate and largely shielded it from the worst effects of the Great Depression. The economic historian Ramon Myers concluded that China simply did not experience any national economic depression as the world depression deepened. Okay, so China was doing relatively fine. And as the depression worsened by the 30s, the world's biggest economies came off the gold standard, allowing them to expand their money supplies and stimulate demand. As plenty of scholars have observed, countries that did so recovered more quickly. The U.S. took the plunge in 33 during the first year of Franklin Roosevelt's presidency. And I believe also in 33, that's when U.S. gold was expropriated. That was the first blow to the Chinese economy, ruining the competitive advantage it possessed when all other countries remained on the gold standard. As its currency began to appreciate, making its goods more expensive in world markets, its balance of payments turned negative and imports exceeded exports. But the worst is yet to come. Remember, I told you to remember that name, Pittman, right? Senator Pittman. In the U.S., Senator Key Pittman of Nevada, who was hatching a plan that would prove the undoing of China. Pittman, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, FRC, which is today, I believe, CFR, Council of Foreign Relations, professed to be concerned that China was stuck with a silver currency that had limited purchasing power in global markets. If Pittman could drive up the price of silver, he proclaimed, China would see its purchasing power increase, enabling it to purchase more goods from the U.S. Both countries would benefit. It wasn't coincidence that Nevada's economy was highly dependent on silver mining, nor was the fact that Pittman had significant investments in the dormant mines around his state's famous Comstock lode. So Pittman had a few reasons why he wanted to do this, right? However, dubious Pittman's motives may have been he possessed sterling political skills, and he soon marshaled these on behalf of his beloved silver interests, joining forces with legislators from other mining states to push through a comprehensive program to drive up the price of silver. So there you go. Manipulation, right? Pittman convinced Congress to pass a bill that obligated the Treasury Department to purchase domestic or foreign silver until the metal constituted a full quarter of the U.S. monetary supply or when the price hit $1.29. Treasury Department raised legitimate concerns that the artificially swollen price of silver would drain the reserves of countries such as China. Pittman brushed those worries aside. And again, the U.S. knew this because this had happened in their history to them, and now they were going to turn things around and do this on China. Once the law was enacted, Treasury began purchasing silver at the price of $1.29, netting silver producers a tidy 64.5 cents profit after mint charges. This amount amounted to a stable subsidy to silver mining interests, such as Pittman had. The global price of silver was then a mere 35 cents an ounce. The price soon rose, almost doubling within the year. The citizens of Nevada were pleased. But across the ocean, in China, however, the dramatic spike in silver prices turned the monetary system upside down. Although economists disagree about the magnitude of the blow to China, most subscribe to Milton Friedman's account, which shows that the economy effectively imploded in 1934. The spike in silver prices triggered major deflation. Exports plunged still further, and Arthur Young, who served as financial advisor to China from 27 to 41, later noted that it passed from moderate prosperity into deep depression. Meanwhile, Chinese government's efforts to stem the flow of silver overseas failed. 173 million ounces left China. November that year, Chinese government threw in the towel, nationalized whatever silver was left, and put the country on a paper currency standard. 2 years later, Japanese invaded, forcing Chiang Kai shek's nationalist government to undertake a huge armament campaign paid for with paper money. Without silver reserves, inflation soon spiraled out of control. Between 37 and 45, prices rose more than 150% a year. This was a disaster for Chiang Kai shek and a boon for Mao Zedong's communists. As the credibility of the nationalist government collapsed along with its currency, Mao swept to power. This was definitely not the outcome Senator Pittman imagined when he first proposed to pump up the price of silver. Here we go. So, a word of caution to today's monetary policymakers: even seemingly modest modifications can have profound, unforeseen consequences. And I saw one of you mentioned MMT, and I think that can have profound consequences. MMT, um, what the U.S. did to manipulate that silver price in China, brought in communism. I think if the U.S. goes ahead or other countries go ahead with MMT, I think certainly it's going to bring in a socialist aspect. So, these things happens once you start manipulating currencies. One of the many things that happen. Again, so thanks for bearing with me through these things. But I think it was an important part of history to show that what happened then looks to be again happening now, and there is probably going to be some type of monetary shift. Who knows what type of government it may bring in? So again, we need to watch these things. Um, okay, let's see. Getting back to some of these comments. Uh, Huster of Carcosa, pay your bills in government, monopoly money, save wealth and physical things. Couldn't have said it any better. That really is something we all really gotta take heed of and understand. News Junkie 3000, all wars are banker wars. That's getting hard to deny. Bankers do seem to have a role in thing. I know, centuries ago or so, maybe even less, bankers would fund both sides of wars, knowing the outcome doesn't matter because they would be in control. Lord Humongous, MMT will fail by itself. I'm concerned with MMT because it seems to be the outlet right now. As mentioned last week, I do believe we are in a liquidity trap, and one of the ways out of a liquidity trap is where governments will bring on projects, whether it's build a bridge, build roads, whatever it is. Another thing they may do is, as I've said before, give out vouchers. If you have a student loan, here's a voucher for $1,000 a month to help with your loan. If you have a house, here's a voucher for $1,000 a month to help with your mortgage. If you own a car, here's a voucher for $300 a month to help with your car payment. Government, or especially Federal Reserve, is getting desperate for that velocity of money because the money is trapped. The liquidity is trapped. And the more I look into things, the more I'm really convinced that's where we are right now. You don't hear it that often, that word being used, but you're starting to hear it. Keep an ear open. I think you're going to hear that word more and more. Lord Humongous, referring to Bernanke. I hate that guy, Bernanke. Um, you know, I'll just say this. There was a time I did not like what Bernanke was doing, and but I do have to say, in a selfish sense, I am thankful because what Bernanke did was kick the can down the road, um, kept the charade going, which we all don't like. But because he kept it going, for my personal selfish reasons, it gave me time to wake up. It woke me up and it got me into silver. It got me into gold. And I think a lot of us, between the time of Bernanke to now, a lot of us got into silver and gold during that time. Not all of us, but I do think a lot of us got into silver and gold during that time. So in some ways, um, we don't agree with Bernanke, but if he did not do that, um, that whole collapse probably would have happened, and a lot of us would not have had the insurance that we have today. So, in some ways, I'm glad he was. I'll say the word arrogant. And I'm glad he was arrogant, and he felt he could be the Superman. Uh, it bought me time, and it probably bought view time. So, not saying I agree with the guy or anything like that, just saying that you know, what he did, don't agree with it, but in a way, it helped a lot of us, to wake up. Um, so yeah, that's just my opinion with Bernanke. Not saying I like the guy, but because he did that, it gave me time to wake up. Um, let's see. What do I think of the Brunei $10,000 bill? Uh, I haven't been following that, but okay, maybe I should take a look at that. I haven't been following $10,000 bill. Jeez, what are they doing that for? Uh, to infinity and beyond. Yes. Uh, Keynesian clowns. Okay. Um, let's see. Specialist Alpha. Should I save my wealth in silver if the price can be manipulated? Specialist Alpha again. That's the thing. Me personally, I'm not too concerned about the price because it's an insurance, and I'm looking at silver and gold as a wealth, um, as a store of wealth. When these things all happen, uh, the dollar amount it's simply not going to matter. What's going to matter is the purchasing power that it held, the store of wealth that it held, and if they manipulate it and the price goes lower, um, for me, so be it. I'll just add to my insurance policy. I mean, think about if your insurance company says, "Hey, um, I'm going to lower your car insurance. I'm going to lower your health insurance." You'd be happy, right? So, again, you would probably be happy with it and maybe take on more insurance since you could afford it, since it went down and you have money that you can allocate somewhere else. And I simply look at gold and silver the same way. I know a lot of you guys went in 29, 10, 11, 12, seeing those high prices, and a lot of people went in expecting a return. Um, and a lot of I understand those guys have been waiting and waiting and waiting for a long time, and they have enough gold, they have enough silver. They don't care about adding to their positions with lower prices. They just want to see the price go up. And so again, it's I understand that part, but it's not only about the price. It's about that purchasing power that it's going to hold, that store of value, that store of value that it is. And I mean, currencies do rise and fall, and sometimes they even disappear. As this article goes on to say, uh, I'll just read a brief portion of it. According to a study of 775 fiat currencies by dollardays.org, there is no historical precedence for a fiat currency that has succeeded in holding its value. And this is why, for me, I'm not worried about the dollar price of gold and silver when things start to go bad or if the price is manipulated, because no historical precedence for fiat currency that has succeeded in holding its value. There's none. 20% failed through hyperinflation. 21% were destroyed by war. 12% destroyed by independence. 24% were monetarily reformed. I think this is where we're going to be. And 23% are still in circulation, approaching one of the other outcomes. The average life expectancy for fiat currency is 27 years. We are way over that already, with the shortest lifespan being 1 month. Founded in 1694, the British pound sterling is the oldest fiat currency in existence. At a ripe old age of 317 years, it must be considered a highly successful fiat currency. However, success is relative. The British pound was defined as 12 ounces of silver, so it's worth less than 1/200th or 0.5% of its original value. In other words, the most successful long-standing currency in existence has lost 99.5% of its value. And again, that's the reason why the dollar. What is silver gold going to be worth in dollars or a fiat amount? Not concerned. It's more about the store of wealth, the wealth transfer, those types of things that it can do for you. Okay, getting back to your comments. Um, let's see, RR. You have to look at the bright side of things. What the Fed did woke me up. Same here, same here. But the greatest good would have been to do the right thing in a way and let the system reset. You know, morally, I agree. It's painfully, it has to be done. I think what they're trying to do is just probably in back rooms, they're telling themselves, okay, look, we messed up. We're going to have to bring in a new currency to just get people to simply shift over from this one to that one, or from the one we're in now to the new one. And which is what the article I just read mentioned, that how the currency evolved into a different currency. I They're probably trying to find a way to soften the blow. Um, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do it. I'm sure some countries will have a softer landing than others, but you know, I think behind closed doors, they know, they've manipulated it too much. It's kind of like if you're drawing something, or you're painting something, and you keep touching it up and touching it up and touching it up to try and get it perfect, and next thing you know, you ruined your whole painting, you ruined your whole drawing, whatever it was. I think that's where central banks are at right now. They're understanding that we ruined our drawing, we ruined our painting, whatever it is. They've touched it too much, manipulated it too much. Uh, yeah, cash is trash. Cash definitely has a expiration date on it. Um, well, signer USA just needed to stay out of World War One, nothing more. But 1917 Balfour Declaration. At least the Rothschilds got that. Okay, yeah, there's stories behind those for sure. Uh, our Fed is going to print massive amount now also for bailout Boeing. Yeah, that is true. Remember, a few weeks back we talked about CLOs, collateralized loan obligations, and these were something that because there was no yield, interest rates were too low. Companies started taking on risky assets, um, and I think it's even more than what CDOs were at. Collateralized debt obligations, which had a role in the 2007-2008 crisis. So, these CLOs, these corporations, a lot of them, they took these risky assets because they were searching for yield. Why are they searching for yield? Interest rates were too low, so they had to go into riskier assets to try and get that yield. Even pensions, they're searching for 7%. They're going into risky assets. So uh, a lot of companies and whatnot went into these CLOs, and um, CLOs they look like they're cracking a bit. From you have people who say they're just fine, and you have people who say they're beginning to show signs of cracking. And again, what we learned in 2007, 2008, banks were too big to fail. And I think what we're going to learn this time around, there are some companies that are too big to fail, and Boeing probably is one of them. If you're in the U.S., Boeing is probably a company that the U.S. cannot afford to fail, too big to fail company. So again, CLOs, we need to definitely um, keep an eye on these things. Um, it's I mean, there's a bit more I have, but I think we've been here for a bit, and you guys have had some good conversation going on, and appreciate that. Uh, the Fed has no choice but play out the game. This is RR. Play out the game they started, because when it breaks down, so many more will be hurt, and the potential for chaos is greater. Absolutely, lies, manipulation lead to pain. Absolutely. Again, this is why at the very most, have one foot in the system, but try to have one foot out of the system too. There are things you can do. Cam Pod, first time I seen your name. Welcome aboard. We have to get rid of bad banksters and start new, but not with banksters who buy most silver and gold, so they're going to stay in power and nothing changed. Are you kidding me? No way resetting is happening. Um, call it a reset. Call it a. Um, uh, we are going to move over into a no monetary system. And when you look at the numbers, central banks have been buying more gold than in the past 50 somewhat years. They are buying gold. You look at Russia buying gold, Turkey buying gold, Germany getting their gold back. Um, China saying they have so much tons of gold, but I'm pretty sure they have a whole lot more ounces of gold. Um, y- you know, they're not buying gold for anything. This gold is going to be used for something. It's going to be a reserve, but is it going to be the reserve that backs another currency coming in? We'll see. We'll see. Again, my guess, as you guys know, it's going to be some type of a currency backed crypto, maybe some type of a gold backed crypto. Maybe there'll be silver in there as well. Who knows? But I do think things are going to change. I'm not sure if reset is the right word. Maybe rollover or something. But this system is going to roll over into something else, and we need to be able to have something that's going to transfer our wealth from this system to that next system. And the best things out there, my opinion anyway, it's not financial advice, but the best things out there do look to be things like gold and silver. It's what we know as money, it's what central banks are buying. So again, maybe don't do what they say, but do what they're doing. Um, so if not a reset, at least some type of a rollover into a new system. Um, so anyway, I think I'll be wrapping it up here. I didn't realize the time, but you guys got to get sleep. You got to go to work tomorrow, right? You guys in the States, and for the guys in Asia, I think some of us are still on Chinese New Year, so um, I'll probably head on out and do some things also on this day off. So I do appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate the knowledge that you folks share when you come here. It helps each of us out, each and every one of us out. And like I always say, we're in this boat together. We are all in this boat together. You know, um, I none of us elected anyone in the IMF. None of us probably had anything to do with people in central banks. They're not accountable to us. Remember, central banks, they're they are a private entity, private corporation. They're not accountable to you. They're not accountable to me. IMF, I didn't vote for any of them. Neither did you. These people are not accountable to you. They're not accountable to me. Who is accountable to you and me are our families. We need to be accountable to our families and do the right things, the things that we need to do. Again, we're all in the same boat together. Try do the best you can to be a blessing, not a burden. When these things do happen, a lot of us are we're going to come across a lot of people that are unfortunately going to end up being a burden. So spread the word as much as you can. Let people know. If they think you're crazy for what you're saying, it's okay. It takes time. But for yourself, do what you need to do to protect your families. And I'll be wrapping it up pretty much with that. So as always, saddle up for what's coming ahead. Take care of yourselves and be sure to silver up as well. I'll see you guys next week and take care of each other. Bye bye.